Hello and welcome to our series, 8 Strategies to Help Retirees Reduce Taxes and Preserve Assets. This is part 2. If you missed part 1, which was 4 of the 8 strategies, go back to our website, srctexas.com, under webinars, and you can see the first one. So my name is Tara Kendrick, and I'm here with Bill Witt, and we're going to finish the last part of the 8 strategies to help reduce taxes. So part of our focus is to have retirement education to make it easy for people to understand kind of complex situations that you come across in retirement. These sessions are about 30 minutes. And the nice thing is they're available on your schedule. So anytime you want to pop onto our website under webinars, you can pick any of the topics to listen to whenever you feel like it. A lot of these topics that we cover in our SRC University sessions are from our book, and you're always welcome to get a free copy. Either download a PDF online through our website, or you can contact us and we'll send you a softback copy. And our ultimate goal is to create a safe, secure retirement for anyone who wants that, which is pretty much everybody. And the good news about our school is there's no final exam. So at Senior Resource Center, we help in 4 distinct ways. First is we do comprehensive retirement planning. So that's including looking out 20, 30 years to make sure you're not going to outlive your money. We also do tax planning. We're not CPAs. We just find ways to give guidance on how to pay less tax, which is specifically what we're talking about today. We do long-term care planning, and what that looks like is helping use federal and state programs like VA benefits and Medicaid to help pay for long-term care, as well as other insurance products, and then estate planning. So we're not attorneys, but we help navigate the important documents that you need for while you're alive, and then to pass on your assets to your heirs. So I'm going to pass it on to Bill, and we'll get going.
Thanks, Tara. So the challenge we started talking about last week was the fact that the United States probably has one of the most complicated tax systems in the world. The tax rules are complex, and rates and rules are constantly changing, meaning staying on top of it is a challenge. And finally, having a plan to pay less tax is important to a safe, secure retirement. The two things that are given in life, one is death and taxes. Well, today we're going to focus on tax strategies to pay less tax. We looked at this a little bit last week, but this shows you the myriad of taxes that we face on income, on sales, on property, on capital gains. I mean, it's a laundry list of literally hundreds of ways that we get taxed every day in what we buy and consume. Everything we touch has a tax tied to it. So the solution to the tax problem begins with understanding all the taxes you're paying, then starting to make informed choices to reduce your tax obligation, because every tax dollar that you get to save or keep is a dollar you can save or spend on something else. Now, we touched on this last week, but just to make sure everybody's at the same level, our income tax system is a staged or a layered system where higher amounts of income are subject to higher taxes. And what this chart shows is for a single person, the first $11,925 that they earn in 2025 is taxed at 10%. If they earn more than that, up to $48,475, they're being taxed at 12%. So only the funds above $11,925 are taxed at the higher rate. So this is a kind of a tiered process. And the goal is, obviously, we want to stay in the lower tax brackets if we can. You'll notice at the bottom of the page, I show the standard deductions for 2025. For single people, it's $15,000. For married couples, it's $30,000. And then there's an add-on if you're 65 plus. Singles can add on another $2,000. Married couples can add on another $3,200 if both spouses are over 65. So let's do a little bit of math on this just so you understand the importance of this. If we take those two standard deductions and add them to the ceiling of the 12% income bracket, that tells us that A married couple in this case could report up to 130,150 of annual taxable income and still have all of it be taxed in either the 10 or the 12% bracket. So the goal is we want to stay in the lower brackets, not get up into the 22, 24, and even higher brackets that you see on the chart. So last week, we talked about ways to reduce or eliminate taxation on Social Security income. As Tara mentioned, if you haven't watched the first part of this presentation, go back and watch because there's a number of strategies to have income, but not to have your Social Security be taxed. We talked about ways to eliminate the Medicare IRMA surcharges, the really taxes on Medicare's Part D, Part B, and Part C, where they cause you to pay more if you earn more or have to report higher earnings. We discussed an alternative to safe CDs, and we discussed an alternative to mutual funds that offer some tax advantages. But today we're going to focus on the last four topics. I'm going to show you how to live better on less money. Sounds like a big challenge, but I'm going to show you how to do it. We're going to dive into Roth IRAs because Roth IRAs are a tremendous way to lower taxes. We're going to talk about ways to tap home equity. Most of us have homes in retirement, and if you live in the Central Texas area, you know that the home values have gone up dramatically. We're going to talk about different ways to tap home equity, taking advantage of the tax rules. And last but not least, probably the greatest risk we all face, paying for long-term care. I'm going to show you different strategies to pay for care tax-free. So let's start with the first one, live better on less money. This may be the most important slide in this presentation, so stick with me. Your lifestyle is established while you are working and earning. So when we have a job and we have a paycheck coming in, we establish a lifestyle, and it might include travel or hobbies or going to the theater or any one of a number of things. We establish our lifestyle while we're working and earning. But then there's a big change. For most people, they stop working, either reduce it or stop working altogether. And when they do that, they're in quotes, retirement. Well, that lifestyle, we want to maintain that lifestyle, that standard of living. And what we found is in retirement, it equals more free time and also the opportunity to have more expenses. If you have a hobby, you may want to dig in deeper. If you travel, you might want to travel more. And so the challenge we face is how do we support that lifestyle that was created while we were working, but are no longer, in quotes, earning or working anymore. Here's a typical example. And this is a real life example. We didn't make this up. We had a client, a single lady, come to see us. Her Social Security is $3,296, pretty good. Her living expenses, though, are much higher, $6,249. Now, what that means, in retirement, the only source of income she had was the Social Security check, which means that she faces a $2,953 shortfall every month. Well, the other thing I didn't tell you is this lady's very conservative, not a big fan of the stock market, doesn't like the roller coaster of going up and down, and favors much safer investment options. So here's a question. How much money, how many dollars in a safe 4% CD do you need to cover that $2,953 shortfall? The answer is $885,900. No tricky math here. Take $2,953, that's per month, multiply it times 12, divide by the interest rate on the CDs. And if she wanted to generate enough income to live on and never touch her principal, she'd have to have $885,900 in safe, secure CDs. But what if you only have $642,000, which was her case? She's really faced with two difficult choices. One is she could dig into riskier investments, look for a higher rate of return, but also face the possible downside if there's a market correction or if the investment reduces. Or the second thing is she could curtail her lifestyle, but that's not pleasant either. So we built a long-term model. In our practice, we do financial planning. We look 10, 20, even 30 years into the future and tell people what their financial solvency will look like down the road. And that's based on expenses, it's based on assets, and it's based on income. And in our model showed that since she's spending more than she's making every month, she's spending down. And in this case, our client was going to run out of money at age 86. Well, that's not a real good situation to be in. So what's the solution? I want to talk to you about a way to multiply the value of money. Think about that. How do you multiply the value of money? Well, actually, it's fairly simple. What we did was we took $150,000 of savings that this lady had accumulated out of her $642,000, and we converted it into a product that generates monthly lifetime income. In this case, that $150,000 is generating $1,123 of monthly lifetime income. Now, over a number of years, the income product we set up drains. It actually goes down in value to, in 14 years, you've gotten everything out you put in. All 150 has been paid out. But like Social Security, the income is for life. You know, if you're on Social Security, after about 10 or 11 years, the government has paid you or me what we paid in and what our employers paid in. But yet the checks keep coming. And that's the secret or the power of income. If you can generate lifetime income that pays out, you make a deposit, it drains the account, but when the bucket goes empty, it doesn't stop paying. Well, that's a powerful tool to support lifestyle. It extends, in this case, the solvency of our client to age 100. So now she doesn't have to worry about running out of money at age 86. Now, if you fund this income product with after-tax funds, part of the income you're receiving every month is tax-free. And that continues until the account is drained. And then at that point, continuing payments are taxable. But this is a way to multiply the value of money. So the question I would leave you with on this topic, are you spending down in retirement? If your expenses exceed your income, you ought to give it some consideration to looking into converting some of your savings into something that generates lifetime income you can't outlive. And if you wonder where these concepts came from, you don't have to look very far back. If you go back to the 1950s, 60s, 70s, what did people have when they retired in this country? Most of them had tax-free Social Security income and a pension from the employer where they worked for 10 or 20 or 30 years. Well, those pensions are gone. So we help our clients essentially build their own personal pensions and multiply the value of their money. If you have questions on whether this model would work for you in retirement, give us a call. Now, the second topic I want to talk about is a key one. It's Roth IRAs. Most of us are familiar with 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, 457 plans. These are all pre-tax funded retirement plans. They're kind of what replaced the pensions of the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. And so we want to spend some time looking into how you can convert some of your taxable IRA or 401k dollars into a Roth IRA and to benefit. And last week, one of the topics we talked about was, what causes Social Security and our Medicare benefits to be taxed? Well, it's the amount of income we're generating. And if it's taxable income, that's when up to 85% of our Social Security can be subject to taxation, and our Medicare benefits can be subject to the IRMA surcharges or taxes. So the solution for many, many clients is looking into ways to convert qualified funds, those 401k, 403b, IRA dollars, to a Roth IRA. And if we do that, the future income that comes out of the Roth is tax-free and doesn't impact Social Security and Medicare. So let's talk about two different strategies that we use in our practice to help people tax efficiently Roth convert. And the two strategies are, the first one I call smart required minimum distributions, or RMDs. We'll explain what that is. The second one is doing gradual Roth conversions. We'll talk about the rules that make it tax efficient. So smart required minimum distributions. What are RMDs? Well, an RMD is built into the tax code. And what it says is when we contribute pre-tax dollars to an IRA or a 401k, the government lets us defer having to pay tax on those funds. But when we turn 73, required minimum distributions start. And there's a chart that's available in our book that shows the different divisors that cause income or cause money coming out of an IRA to be taxable. The divisor starts at 26.5. If you take 26.5 and divide that into the balance in your IRA or 401k on January 1st, that tells you how much you have to take out. If you divide a number by 26.5, you're taking 3.8% of your IRA value out. Well, that's not bad. The bad news is the divisor decreases annually as we age. And if you remember back to grade school mathematics, as the divisor decreases, the percentage you have to take out of your IRA every year increases. So Uncle Sam gave us tax deferral till we turned 73. And at that point, we're forced to take out required minimum distributions. Whether we want it, need it, we have to take it out. If we don't, there's a 50% tax penalty. So let's look at a simple example of how to do what we call smart RMDs. Now, here I show the same amount of money on both sides of the page. See that? Well, so what happens when we turn 73? What most people do is they go to the chart, they go, oh yeah, it's 26.5, they divide it into the value, and they start doing what I call annual dipping. They take out the appropriate amount to keep Uncle Sam happy and stay in Uncle Sam's good graces. Well, what's an alternative to this strategy? You'll notice on the right side, I've divided the IRA dollars, same amount, into two buckets. I show it as 50-50, but there's no magic to this. It could be 60-40, 70-30. But I put a portion of the money into a product called an annuity. And what does that product offer? Well, it has a feature, a lifetime income rider that can be turned on whenever I need to start taking money out. And when I turn 73, remember, I've got to take it out. I don't have a choice. RMDs aren't optional, they're forced. So many of our clients set up an IRA annuity with a portion of their retirement funds. And when they turn 73, they turn on lifetime income. That more than exceeds the RMD amount. And so it keeps Uncle Sam happy. Well, what takes place over time? As we start making those withdrawals out of the IRA annuity, the values of the account is going down. Remember, though, it's lifetime income. You can't outlive it. On the left side, I'm showing that the amount of annual dipping has gone up too, because what's happening? We're having to take a higher and higher percentage out of our IRA account. Well, let's push this into the future, and eventually that IRA annuity is going to drain or empty. And so the first bit of good news is, while the account has gone to zero, it's a lifetime payout. It's paid out everything you put in. It's paid out everything it's earned over its existence, usually 10 or 12 years. And then you start getting, in quotes, free money. This is the same model that I used earlier when I was talking about how to multiply the value of money. You put money in a bucket, you draw it out over a period of time, and then if you outlive your bucket, you start getting free money. There's no magic to this, just like Social Security, just like pensions that our parents or grandparents had. This is how they got free money. If you live long enough, you will start getting free money. But that's not the end of the opportunity here. With this model, you can do one more thing. When the bucket is almost empty, when that IRA annuity is down to only a few $1,000s, we go back to the company that established it and say, hey, you remember the IRA I set up with you 12 years ago? Yes. Well, I'd like to Roth convert it. Now, if I convert my Roth up front, I pay a big tax because my IRA was big. But by draining the account, it's now down to a few $1,000s, and I'm able to Roth convert. The tax penalty is minimal, and now the go forward income is tax-free. Tax-free life, not only free money or extra money, but tax-free money. These are the kinds of models we build with our clients. And we have clients now that are approaching this transition period where they're going from taxable distributions out of their IRA to tax-free. If you want to know more about this, we're happy to share with you how it works. And here's a case study we did. Lucy and Bill were both 68. They had a monthly budget of $6,000 in retirement. We projected that would grow at inflation of 2.5%. Each of them had Social Security. Lucy, 68, was $1,856. Bill delayed his to age 70, and that allowed him to start at $3,564. By the way, delaying Social Security can be very beneficial. You start with a higher number, and around age 78, you hit a break-even point where by delaying, you get more money. But that's a whole nother workshop. Savings-wise, Bill and Lucy had $725,000. $675 of it was in Bill's 401k, and we have it projected to grow nicely at 5%. Now, when we looked at life expectancy, Bill's family shorter lived. Bill, we projected, might pass away at age 83. His parents passed away in their late 70s or early 80s. But Lucy's from a family of long-lived people. We expect she might well make it to 100. So what did we do in this case? We took $275,000 out of that 401k dollars and we put them into an annuity. The annuity was generating $1,107 of monthly income starting at age 70. And the income grows if the stock market is up. Well, that's wonderful. Let's take a look. I said we do financial planning. We have some very powerful software that can project people's financial assets 20, 30 years into the future. It's called Retirement Analyzer. Very powerful software, easy to use, but it can give you a window into your future. And in this case, I'm showing two scenarios. On top, I have Bill and Lucy are retired. They start drawing Social Security and they start drawing down against their nest egg. And at age 100, when Lucy hits age 100, they have $345,000 left in their account. Not bad. Well, what happens if we convert some of the money to an income generating product? And that's what I show in the lower scenario. And the differential is $241,000 of additional savings when Lucy hits 100. She also has more go forward monthly income if Bill is in heaven. So if you would like to see ways that you can multiply the value of your IRA dollars, 401k dollars, we're happy to show you examples of this. Just come to our office. I said there were two strategies for Roth conversions. Some people use the income model that we just talked about, satisfying the RMDs, drawing the account down and converting it to a Roth IRA. That's a good one. But there's a second one, and that's just doing gradual Roth conversions. And there are two rules that allow you to convert IRAs dollars to Roth tax efficiently. And they are, use the IRS tax tables to your advantage. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then pay the tax obligation from other non-qualified savings. Well, let's dig in. Let's go back to that chart I showed you up front. Remember I said that the ceiling of the 12% bracket for married couples is $96,950. If we add it to the standard deductions in 2025, it tells us that a couple can earn $130,150 of taxable income and still stay in the 12% tax bracket, very low bracket. By the way, this is a kind of foreshadowing, but next week we're going to talk about the big, beautiful bill, and I'm going to add in some additional standard deductions to this chart. So tune in next week. But what this chart shows us is if a couple reports $130,000 in a calendar year, they're still in the low 12% tax bracket. Many of our clients, though, don't have $130,000 of income in retirement. Let's say you've only got, let's say, $100,000. Well, now there's a gap. And the gap is between 100 and 130 is $30,000 of IRA money that could be Roth converted at the very low tax rate of 12%. You know, the big beautiful bill reinstated or continued those tax tables that were put in a number of years ago, which is good news. So if your income is below one of these thresholds, you can take out additional money out of your IRA or 401k annually and stay in that tax bracket. So rule number one, understand this tax chart, figure out where you are on it, and use it to your advantage to gradually transfer IRA dollars to Roth. Now, the second key strategy or key rule in doing Roth conversions is how you pay your taxes. On the left, I show a $100,000 IRA that I'm going to convert to a Roth. I'm in the 20% tax bracket. So what do a lot of people do? They cash in their IRA. It now becomes a Roth IRA, and they hand 20% of the proceeds to Uncle Sam. So the Roth starts out at $80,000. If you build a model and compare $100,000 taxable versus $80,000 tax-free, guess what? It's a dead heat. The Roth doesn't outperform the IRA. But what if instead we pay the tax obligation from other non-qualified savings that we have? In this case, we take our IRA, we've converted 100,000 to Roth, we pay the tax obligation from other savings we have, and the Roth now starts out at 100,000. Well, very simply, if you run 100,000 taxable investment against 100,000 tax-free investment, the Roth wins. It wins big time. And by the way, with Roth IRAs, there are no required minimum distributions. So if you're interested in how to gradually convert IRA funds or 401k funds over to a Roth IRA, we're happy to show you that. Ask your kids this question: son, daughter, would you like to inherit my taxable IRA? Or how about inheriting a tax-free Roth IRA? I think they're going to favor the tax-free Roth IRA. In both cases, all the funds have to be taken out within 10 years. This was one of the byproducts of the Secure Act passed during the original Trump administration. So no longer can your kids sit on your IRA the rest of their life and take small distributions. Now they're forced to take all the money out. Well, if they're in their prime earning years, that can force them into a higher tax bracket. So doing Roth conversions now means you're handing them much more attractive tax-free money. All right. Most of us have two major assets as we go into retirement. We have our IRA or 401k, and we have a home. And if you live in the Central Texas area, you know home values have skyrocketed in the last 10, 15 years. So I want to talk about 4 tax-efficient strategies for homeowners in Texas. Downsizing, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about ways to defer property taxes. We'll talk about transferring your senior homestead exemption. And finally, I'm going to talk about ways to directly tap home equity. So let's dig in. Downsizing. Well, a lot of people still think the tax rules for homes were the way they were before 1997. Prior to 97, if you sold a home, you had to buy a more expensive home and roll the principal that you're taking out of the current home into the new home to avoid taxation. But those rules changed in 97. Today, singles can shield $250,000 of gain from the sale of a home. So somebody buys a home for $250,000, it increases in value to $500,000, they sell it. How much do they owe Uncle Sam? Nothing. They get to keep all $500,000. What about couples? Well, what if a couple buys a home for $500,000 and it doubles in value up to $1 million? Couples can shield the home from taxable gain. They can sell the home, net $1 million, and pay not a nickel to Uncle Sam. Now, to qualify for this, you have to reside in your home for 2 of the preceding 5 years. But the proceeds that you get from the sale of a home below these gain limits on top of what you originally paid are tax-free. So for many people, the McMansion that they have, where they had 5 bedrooms and room for lots of kids, they don't need that anymore. They can downsize to a smaller home, take principal out, and all of the money they're taking out can be tax-free. That's a pretty nice way to use the value of your home in retirement. Another strategy that a lot of people aren't familiar with is deferring property taxes. You know, property taxes are one of the things that's gone up dramatically. As home values have gone up, so have the taxes. If you live in Austin, I understand your pain. And they're talking about more tax increases this election season. Well, people that are 65 plus, disabled by Social Security standards, or a disabled veteran or a surviving spouse of a disabled veteran, or the surviving spouse of a U.S. service member killed in the line of duty, or maybe you're facing property value increases greater than 5%. Well, property taxes are a big chunk of the money we have to spend every year. And there's a solution. People that want to stay in their home, don't want to downsize, but also can't afford to pay the property taxes, they can file an affidavit with a local tax assessor, and that will freeze the property taxes. They don't have to make payments on it. You have to live in your home to qualify for this benefit. The deferred taxes do accrue interest, usually between 5 and 8% per year. And taxes are eventually due within 180 days of one of 2 events. Either you die owning your home and your heirs have to sell the home and settle up on the tax authority, or you move out. You decide to move into an apartment or into a healthcare facility. In those cases, you have to settle up. But it's a way of maintaining more income in retirement and not having to pay the property taxes up front. Something to consider. Another option that many people aren't familiar with is one of the wonderful features we have in Texas. When you turn 65, they freeze your property taxes, at least the school portion of the property taxes, which is the largest share of the property tax. And so as we get older, I'm 76. Every year, my home appraisal goes up, but my property taxes don't go up. That's a pretty good feeling. I like that. So to qualify for this, you have to be 65 plus. And what this allows you to do, let's say you want to move to someplace else in Texas, within the same county, or maybe another county in Texas. You can transfer the tax ceiling from your current home to a new home. If you're the surviving spouse of somebody that was 65 plus, you have to be age 55 or older, and you have to live in the house, you can also transfer your homestead exemption, your senior exemption, to the new home. People that are on Social Security disability benefits, there's no age limit. They can move, transfer the ceiling, and not have to pay higher taxes. To accomplish this, you go to your local appraisal district and complete a form, and they will document what the current valuation is. And then when you move to another county in Texas, you take that report or form to the local appraisal district, and they will accept it. So this is something else definitely to check out if you're thinking about moving after you've locked your senior homestead exemption. Finally, let's talk about tapping home equity directly. And here I'm talking about something that maybe doesn't have the best reputation, but we've come to see it in a different light. And what I'm talking about are reverse mortgages. So what is a reverse mortgage? It's a mortgage where you actually can withdraw funds out of your home, the value of your home, and not make any payments. You know, with a traditional mortgage, we loan money, and then over 10, 15, 20, maybe 30 years, we pay down the mortgage until we've paid it all off. So we have to make monthly payments. Well, reverse mortgages, you can make payments if you want, but you don't have to. So it's a way of tapping some of that built up home equity, providing funds to live on. Now, to qualify, you must be at least 62 years old, and the protections also apply for a younger spouse. So if you're 62 and your spouse or bride is 58, you qualify. It can only be done on a primary residence. The home must be your primary residence, and you must live in it most of the year. So this isn't for the weekend cottage. This is for the primary residence. Home equity is very important in a reverse mortgage. You need substantial equity to make it a useful tool. And once again, when I use the term reverse mortgage, it's nothing more than a financial tool. Not a good one, not a bad one, just a way to do something. And for people that are house rich, but otherwise income poor, a reverse mortgage is a nice way to support lifestyle. Home equity needs to be at least 50%, though more is better. If you have 80 or 90%, or you've paid off your mortgage, that's better. You can get more money. If you haven't paid off your mortgage, that's the first thing that gets satisfied. So if you're having to pay on a mortgage and you want to eliminate that, you sign up for a reverse mortgage and they pay off your current mortgage. You don't make any more payments. So how do you receive money from a reverse mortgage? Well, it's done one of two ways. Either a lump sum, they give you a bucket of money, or you set up a monthly income stream that lasts as long as you do. What happens when you finally move out of the house? You have to settle up with the reverse mortgage company. And what that entails is paying it back. Value of your property. And so there's still remaining equity that's going to go to your heirs. Meanwhile, you're living the lifestyle that you want to live. We don't do reverse mortgages within our practice, but we have one of our trusted affiliates specializes in this financial tool. So if you have questions on this, hey, give us a call and we'll put you in contact. You can explore how a reverse mortgage might be an effective tool to support your retirement lifestyle. So the last topic I want to talk about, very important one, it's ways to pay for long-term care with tax-free dollars. And why do I say this is important? Because long-term care is the biggest financial risk all of us face. Not me, not you, everybody. We're living much longer as a species. People typically lived to their mid-60s, passed away. Maybe they got a couple of years of Social Security, then they passed away. But that's not what's happening. With modern medicine, life expectancy has risen dramatically in the last 100 years. If you go back to the 1900s, life expectancy, the average was about 30 years. But today, it's well above 70. It's close to 80 years. And if you are 65, you can expect to live comfortably another 20 years. That's an average. Some people are going to live 30 or 40 years, some less, but many more. So as we age, eventually parts of our body or our brains wear out. And so many of us need long-term care. And it can be rendered at home in assisted living where you get a little care or in skilled nursing. So I want to talk about 4 different strategies to pay for long-term care using tax-free dollars. Let's dig in. First one is long-term care insurance. This has been around a long time. I'm going to touch on it briefly. We used to write a lot of long-term care policies, not so many now, and I'll explain why. The benefits that are paid from a long-term care insurance policy are tax-free. So you pay money in, premiums in, but what comes out, even if it's grown in value, which it most assuredly has, it is all tax-free. And when you design a policy, you're either going to, if you're a couple, you could either get 2 individual policies or a shared policy. We recommend shared policies. Why? Well, with 2 individual policies, each policy owner has a bucket of money they can spend down. But if a person doesn't tap their bucket or only taps it a little and dies, the value is lost. On a shared policy, it's more like the old malt shop where you have 2 straws and 1 bucket of money. And so a couple can share a policy. One spouse can use a little, the other can use a lot, and they get better utilization of the benefits in the policy. Well, where does long-term care policies, where do they pay? The answer is most of them pay at home, in assisted living, and in skilled nursing. They're integrated policies. Some of the original policies back in the 1980s only dealt with skilled nursing homes. And that's the last place people want to go. So today's policies help pay for care at home, in assisted living, and in skilled nursing, all the places where we get care, or living with a son or daughter. So it doesn't matter where you are, you can get the benefits. The policies pay out either a daily or a monthly benefit. Well, what's the difference? Well, let's say you get $100 a day, 30 days, let's see, that's $3,000 a month. Which is better? We recommend monthly benefits. Why? Because if you're getting care at home, your daily care costs can go up and down on a daily basis. And so it's possible that you don't take advantage of the daily benefit some days, and some days the cost is higher than what your daily benefit is, so you can't effectively use the policy. But let's say we have a $3,000 monthly benefit, just picking a number. Those dollars can be spent on day one of the month or the last day of the month or any time in between. So if you're going to get a long-term care policy, make sure you're looking at a monthly benefit. And I talked about creating a pot of money that you can tap. How is that determined? Well, you take the daily or monthly amount and multiply times some term, some length of the policy. So let's say we have a policy that pays $3,000 a month times 36 months. Well, you've got a little over $100,000 in your bucket. If you're not drawing at the maximum monthly rate, well, then it's actually a long bucket is empty. We always strongly recommend adding inflation protection to a policy. Why? Because the cost of long-term care is labor intensive and always going up. And as it goes up, the costs go up. And so having inflation protection ensures that the policy keeps up with your care needs. To get a policy, you need to have good health. Many people come to see us when they're on the verge or they've been diagnosed with some health condition and they can't qualify. So you pay for it with your pocketbook, but you actually qualify for it with your health. So if this is of interest, come see us. We'll talk about what it costs, how to build a policy. You can make a decision as to whether it fits in your wheelhouse. Policies are expensive. How do I know this? Because I've had a long-term shared policy with my wife for 15 years. We started out paying about $3,700 a year for the policy. That was doable. This year, the premium's going to go to a little over $9,000. Next year, it'll be over $10,000. Ouch. Policies have gotten a lot more expensive. So it's something you need to know. The other important thing about long-term care, most policies are use it or lose it. So let's say it's kind of like auto insurance. Let's say you insure your car and you don't have a wreck this year. Well, you paid in the premiums. Most companies don't give you all your money back. Maybe you get a little benefit going forward, but it's use it or lose it. And the same thing is true of long-term care insurance. If you have a policy and pay on it and die and never tap it or only tap it a little, usually your heirs get no additional benefits. Something to think about. Life insurance is another way to pay for long-term care tax-free. How do we do that? Well, most policies today, you can add on a rider. And the rider says that you can use part of the death benefit to pay for long-term care. What's a typical example? Well, the draw rate might be 5% of the death benefit paid monthly. So I've got a $100,000 death benefit. 5% of that is $5,000 could be paid out monthly and used to pay for long-term care. And the payments coming out of life insurance are generally tax-free as long as you don't collapse the policy before you die. So the payments are going to be tax-free. You get the full value to pay for your care needs. And unlike long-term care insurance, it's use it or the remaining death benefit goes to your heirs. So let's say you have a $300,000 death benefit and you tap it and draw down $100,000 while you're alive to pay for long-term care. There's still $200,000 left in the policy that'll be paid out as a tax-free death benefit. If you have questions on this, come see us. Now, the last two programs I want to talk about paying for long-term care tax-free are federal and state benefits. The first one, let's touch on VA benefits. The one I want to focus on is aid and attendance. This is a benefit created by Congress in 1952, and it covers wartime veterans and their spouses. You didn't have to be in combat, You didn't have to be injured. You didn't have to be in the field of combat or conflict. All you had to do is serve during a wartime period. During Korea, World War II, maybe not too many of those folks left, Korea, Vietnam War, or the Gulf Wars. If you served stateside during any of those theater of operations, you are eligible for a benefit from the VA when you're needing, receiving, and paying for long-term care. So this isn't a pension you get just because you served. It's a pension you get to defray the cost of long-term care. And it covers wartime veterans, and there's a chart that shows the years you had to serve, and the spouse of the wartime veteran, as long as the marriage doesn't end in divorce. Below this, I show the different rates that are available in 2025. Married veterans can get $27.95 tax-free from the VA. Single veterans, $23.58. A veteran spouse, if the veteran's alive, can get $18.30, and a surviving spouse can get $1,515. That's a lot of money, and it's tax-free. It goes to pay for long-term care. Now, income and asset rules apply to getting this benefit, and we help explain those. We help people navigate the incredibly complex process of dealing with the VA, because the VA sets everything up for failure. So my last comment, you can see this is not a DIY opportunity. We've had many people come to our office, and when we mention VA, they go, "Don't talk about it." I go, "Why not?" Because we looked into that 3 years ago and we never got anything. And I asked them, who did the application? Who filled out the forms? They tell me we did. And I go, did you get a guide or a helper to help you fill it out and file it? No. Well, this is not a DIY opportunity. But if you are a veteran, or you know a veteran who now is needing long-term care, or the spouse of a veteran, contact us and we will take you through the process to get VA aid and attendance. The last one, really misunderstood. There's so many myths on this one that we spend whole workshops just on Medicaid planning. So what is Medicaid? Well, Medicaid in Texas is many financial programs. You've probably heard of SNAP, which used to be called food stamps. You may have heard CHIPS, health insurance for children. There are many, many Medicaid programs in the state of Texas. But the one that we focus on is using one of the Medicaid programs to pay for nursing home care. So if people get to a point where they need the most expensive level of care in a skilled nursing home, this is a really good fit. We've helped over 2,000 families qualify for Medicaid benefits. 2,000 families. That's a lot of people. And here's the first great myth. How much money can you have and get on Medicaid? Most people come in and say, well, don't you have to be broke, Bill? The answer is no. Couples can protect all of their assets. What? Really? All of their assets and get one spouse on Medicaid. Singles can protect a home, car, burial programs, and 50 to 100% of their other savings. Wait a second. I thought Uncle Harry had to be broke to get on Medicaid. He chose to spend down, but you don't have to. If you know the rules, the strategies, we show people how to preserve assets and qualify for this benefit, Medicaid, in a skilled nursing home. Now, people come to us and say, Bill, I heard there's an income limit, and this year it's $2,901 a month of gross income. A lot of people are over that. So they go, well, I guess I can't apply, right? The answer is no. There is a waiver that was created years ago. It was originally called a Miller Trust. Today it's called a Qualified Income Trust. And it's nothing more than a glorified checking account that allows people over the income limit to qualify for Medicaid benefits. Now, the key to successful Medicaid planning is asset planning, asset preservation. And something that surprises a lot of folks, your qualified funds, 401k, IRA, Roth, those can be made exempt. Think about it. What are the two things most people have in retirement? A home that's very valuable, we can protect that. And they have IRA or 401k accounts or Roth accounts. We can exempt those. So the next time somebody tells you, you got to be broke to get on Medicaid, what are you going to tell them? Call Bill and Tara and Stacy, find out how to qualify and protect your assets. Once again, this is not a DIY opportunity. Years ago, most nursing homes allowed people to go in and help Medicaid plan for their mom or dad. Today, that's not the case. Most nursing homes today go, you must bring in an advisor, a guide, a helper, so that they don't get blindsided where 3 months later, mom doesn't qualify and you owe a lot of money and mom goes home and they don't get paid. So this is not a DIY opportunity. Come see us. We've shown over 2,000 families how to preserve assets and qualify for Medicaid benefits. Well, that was a lot to cover. What about next week? Well, we're going to focus on another very important topic, the big, beautiful bill that Congress passed earlier this year. And we're going to summarize the top 10 financial issues that are embedded into the big, beautiful bill. Some of them probably impact you, maybe some don't. One of the questions we get a lot is, I heard that the big, beautiful bill was supposed to make my Social Security income tax-free. We're going to answer that question, so stay tuned on that. And if you're reading the press, knowing the government shut down right now, most people are asking, what's going to happen to my health plan subsidies? The big, beautiful bill dealt with that, and we'll discuss how that impacts you. So please come and see us, or listen next week, and we'll answer more of your questions. So to summarize, 8 strategies to help retirees reduce taxes and preserve assets. Go to our website, srctexas.com, download a free PDF of our book to learn more, or you can order a printed copy. We charge $5 shipping and handling. Have a great week. If you have questions, call us at 512-835-0963.